Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. Danny and I have been already for the past 15 minutes talking off record about all kinds of things.
You guys missed it. Where were you?
We figured we'd hit record and actually, do a show for you. Like, all the good stuff's already been talked about, so you guys are going to get the bottom of the barrel now.
Well, I know one great thing that we haven't talked about yet that I want to talk about for sure.
Yeah.
Is my new Blackstone griddle.
Oh, dude, you're going to get into that. Like, I'm so jealous.
I'm in.
Oh,
I have bacon burn spatters on my arm from the 2 pounds of bacon that I made Sunday.
So
because
this thing, like, honestly, you posted about it. Like, so you get the flat grill for it, and then there's an air fryer along with it.
Oh, there's 2 air fryers,
2 air fry baskets,
and a warming basket, which
Holy
is like
cow,
where you put
dude.
your buns or tortillas or whatever.
So in other words,
Yeah.
you got to get like the whole headset on and be like, you want fries with that? Is that you? Is that what it is at your house now?
So think about it though. You're cooking the burgers
Yeah.
and the bacon
Okay.
and the fries and the onion rings, and you're warming the buns all at the same time.
I just want to see you do the hibachi onion volcano. That's all I want to see. There needs to be a video of you doing that one.
or me burning myself trying to do that one. So yeah. How did Danny die? Oh,
Whatever's going to make you go viral, man.
His pride got him. His pride is what did it. And it will be. It'll be like, I can do an onion volcano. Watch. I need some gasoline. Somebody get some gas. What? No, it doesn't use gasoline. This one does.
Hashtag Blackstone challenge. Oh,
but it
man.
is hands down my favorite thing right now, of course, because I just got it. But I don't know if you've ever worked a grill. I apologize. You may have talked about that before, but my first, like, out of the, actual gone to a place and applied for a job was when I was in high school, and I went to work at Wendy's. Right. And I worked the grill. And basically, it's just this big hunk of hot metal that you're cooking burgers and cheese and, and everything that you're putting on it. And I loved working on that. I loved, honestly, cleaning that up because it was a really solid clean every single time.
Oh, yeah.
And I enjoy like clean things. So I enjoyed the work to clean it. And I've got 4 monsters living in my house with bottomless pits. And my wife and I are not, faint of heart when it comes to food either.
Yeah.
And I made fajitas on Sunday. I made a big thing of bacon just to see how it would cook. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
I had it a little too hot because I've been seasoning it. It crisped really fast, but it was, I got them all before they burned. So that's good.
You're going to make me have to like come up with some sort of like pitch to my wife to get this as like a Christmas present or something, because it sounds amazing. My brother actually picked up, I believe he's got a 17-inch that he can take with him camping. Like he had that this past weekend, and I didn't make it over to really get to see what he was doing with it because I was feeding my own kids. But it looked really neat from afar. And then he also picked up like a 36-inch or something like that for his house. So he's got like 2 of them. But I mean, as far as like grill work myself, like I've worked in kitchens before and done different things, but it wasn't till like a few years ago when we started cooking up bacon for the Flying Pig Marathon here in town. That's what we use, because we have a professional kitchen at our church. And so we'll get like 4 or 5 guys in there, and we'll have cast iron skillets going. We'll have the flat top going. And then we have a convection oven that we just put bacon on trays and throw it in there. So we're doing all kinds of different processes of it, which is amazing.
Yes.
And it's so fun because like, especially with the griddle, like, there's so much grease that gets up on there, and then it gets slid to the side, and you got that, like that trough, and you pull it out and it's just full of grease.
Bacon grease.
And the stuff that comes so that hasn't been taken very good care of. Like it needs a serious clean. So whatever gets caught up in there, we just kind of just discard and don't do much with it.
Yeah.
But everything else we keep, like especially the stuff that comes off the convection oven. And we have one of the guys that we talk about all the time on the show, David McMillan, takes it and he takes all of it home and he then fine strains it and then cans it.
Nice.
And then you can go up and pick it up. Like I've got like 3 or 4 jars of it. I take it camping with me all the time.
Yes.
And it makes an amazing grease for cooking anything on.
Bacon grease is the best.
It's so good, especially if it's been filtered well. You know, you get that, you get all the chunks and everything else out of it. Beautiful white like grease in there. So like nice lard.
Bacon grease. Yeah, I was gonna say lard. Oh, I love it. I love cooking with that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm jealous, dude. That's a super super nice
little 18-inch, man. And you're gonna be camping a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean yeah, there's if I get a camper,
you should just ask her, do you want to serve the kids cold food? I mean, I'm fine with it if you want.
we love to cook over a fire though. That's the thing. Like that's everybody always looks at us weird because when we go to the family camp out, we're one of the few that actually we're usually in tent. This year we were in a pop-up, but still like we were the ones that were cooking over a fire. Everybody else was cooking in their campers or over like the grill that they had brought.
Yeah. There's nothing like a campfire though.
No, there's really not. Especially, you know, like, I mean, we throw like a flat iron cast down on there and did I did scrambled eggs and sunny side up eggs. And I'll tell you the true sign of a master camp cook is if you can cook sunny side up eggs and not break the yolk on a cast iron skillet. And I can do that. And so
I too, sir. High five.
It is, yes.
Because you are correct. That was the first time I ever made an egg like that, was on a campfire. And I had no idea how to do it. I'd never done it, but I had the cast iron and we made steak and eggs for breakfast.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, because the other guys are having like oatmeal or something. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are doing, but why are you camping like that? And we just, I mean, because it was a 2-day. It wasn't like we were hiking. We drove up there, literally drove up to like within maybe 30 yards of the campsite. So just pack a cooler full of all the, you know, could freeze it and, you know, and just you're going. And then I was doing steak and eggs and one of my friends came up and he's like, oh, and I'm like, well, you know, sit down. You want to eat? Come on. And he was, you know, of course, anybody could have come up. But I said, well, you know, you like scrambled eggs? He goes, well, I like them, you know, sunny side up. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how to do that. And he said, well, let me tell you. And it was way easier him standing there helping me to get through it, you know? But there it was. And I'm like, there you go. There's your unbroken sunny side up. Let's go. I made you an egg. And he was like, oh, it's delicious. You know, and like we already said, over a fire. We'll do like steamed vegetables in a little foil pack, baked potatoes or whatever. Just put them over to the side.
That's called a hobo meal is what we usually call that.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Steam. Yeah. Potatoes and meat and just for vegetables and stuff, throw it in a foil pack and throw it in the fire, let it warm all up and then squirt ketchup and mustard all over it. Yeah, buddy. That is a meal. Love it.
Well, we do butter and garlic.
Well, that works too.
Like
that's
vegetables,
great.
You know, zucchini and broccoli or whatever else, and then definitely potatoes.
Oh yeah.
And the potatoes are any way you want them. I mean, it just and most of the time there's extra, and you crack them open in the next morning and make a hash out of them or whatever. Now I'm hungry.
That's some good stuff. Yep, for sure. Well, and too, like, so that was like I said, I've worked in a kitchen before, and I like to short order cook that kind of stuff. And there was years ago. I was actually at my in-laws and my brother-in-law was in town and he's like, I'm going duck hunting. And they were duck hunting on the Mississippi River. And I was like, I want to go. And I had brought some gear with me and I was like, I can't hunt like with you guys because I'm not paying that license. I'm sorry. Like that's expensive.
Yeah.
But I'd love to be able to go sit in the blind with you guys and I'll cook for you. And they were like, oh yeah, like we got a grill and everything. And they're like, what do you want to cook? And I'm like, I was like, let's go to the store. I'm like, I'll get bacon and eggs, and like we'll get some sausages and stuff, and
Yeah.
I'll get some bread. We'll do some toast on there and everything. And so these guys are sitting there, shotguns in hand at the blind, and it's just like you hear them calling these ducks from across the way, and they're coming in and blasting them. And the whole time I'm back there like cooking up bacon and eggs and everything. I'm like, all right, who's got? I was like, breakfast is up. Who's up next? Kind of deal. And like they would switch in and out. So it was stuff like that was just that I loved it. It was so much fun. I was like, I didn't get to do the experience of getting to like, shoot, but it was fun to just be in there. I actually got to set, like after I got everybody served, it was fun because they had saved me like a seat, like so where I could actually just have like a hunter's view of everything and watch it. So that was a lot of fun because I mean they were just like blasting them out of the sky, and it was fun because they were calling them from across like a preserve. So on the other side of the river was like a bird preserve, and they're just like, come over here and die. Like it was hilarious.
You guys are fine over there, however over here we'll eat you.
Yeah, so that was good. That was the first time I ever had duck too. It was delicious.
Yeah It's been a long time. I've never really technically myself been bird hunting. But when I was a kid, my great uncle, he would always provide for the table at my grandma's house, my great grandma's house, really. And it was the funniest thing was picking birdshot out of your food, And I remember that specifically because that first time you bite down on a piece, even though he told us, I'm sure, but I was too young. I'm like, what the, ting, and I like, it's a baby. And my great uncle's like, that's birdshot, son. Just eat your food.
That's where you need to get Paul Gordon to take you out. That's one of the things that he likes to do is go. I think it's either pheasant or I forget what it is, dove, maybe something along those lines. But yeah, man, you should get with him and go out sometime.
I'm going. I don't know if it'll be this year. I don't know what. Honestly, I think we'll just be settling in this whole year.
Sure.
I hate to say that, but it just the more I plan, the more I don't get done. And I look around. I'm like, I've got a million things to do, but may not be this year, but absolutely next year. I'm definitely going deer hunting. The deer up here, they're whitetails like we have in Georgia, but the whitetails in Georgia, you have to check. You don't really check, see if they have antlers. You check, see if they're wearing a collar. Because you make sure you're not shooting somebody's dog, because that's how big they are. They're like 12 pounds. They're like tiny little, hey, how are you? Like,
I was gonna say up in Wisconsin, they're freaking horses.
Yes,
they're monsters.
A lot more. And we have a big stand-up freezer, which is not in any way full, man. And I think a freezer needs to be full to work at peak efficiency. So
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually went to the butcher.
Oh,
by the
way,
there
you go. I love going to the butcher.
I do too now. It's called Ski's Meat Market, and I just saw it, driving by, and I haven't been. I don't think I've really ever been to a butcher, but other like the supermarket or whatever. And my uncle has been a butcher most of his life, but at the supermarket again. So I never really.
It's so different, It's so different.
I was amazed, and they have so much more in there than meat, which was amazing because they had first was spices, and then sauces, and then spice blends for different types of meats, and then cheeses. Of course, they had an entire like cold thing of cheeses of all different kinds.
Yeah,
they had all the meats, all the sausages, all the kielbasa, all the bratwurst with cheese, and just all of these things that they made in house.
Yeah.
And the bacon. And I said, I give about 2 pounds of, thick cut bacon. And she's all right. And she doesn't take what's in the tray. She goes and gets a thing and slices it up for me. Right. Yep. Like right there. And she puts it up and it's like 2 pounds and like just barely over like 2.3 or whatever. And I went, oh, no, you can leave that. Just go, sure. I can just like, nope, more is better. It's bacon. Let's go.
It won't be wasted. I promise.
There's no way. Right? But this is the first time ever in our house that I have had leftover bacon. Because I made it, but then I kind of set it aside and made the fajitas, right? Because I wanted them on the grill immediately, and I also kind of wanted them in the bacon grease a little bit because that can't ever hurt you.
Oh, I love bacon grease eggs.
Yeah. And then so I get it in, and the kids are eating bacon, and everybody's trying it, and we had some, and we had again 2 pounds. And we didn't have more than 1/4 of a pound left, I'm sure. I mean, it wasn't like that much, but I actually had to put it in a Ziploc and put it in the refrigerator. And I don't even know if you need to do that with bacon, honestly, or not, but I did it anyway. And then tonight had it in our tacos.
Okay.
So I crumbled it up and cooked it into the ground beef, and now it was all gone. And I'm like, I actually had leftover bacon.
See, I would have see if I had leftover bacon after something like that,
Mhm.
I would have pulled out a tortilla the next morning and done up some just like really nice spiced scrambled eggs
And eggs, yeah.
and threw it in there with some cheese and then
Mm.
drop the bacon in with it and put a little hot
Oh,
sauce on it. Bang, like little Frank's
yes.
hot sauce, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's a
Yeah,
winner
yeah.
right there all day
Right,
long.
right.
So
Frank's is
yeah,
good. Frank's
yeah,
is good.
I enjoy it. It's not super hot. I usually put it on my like egg sandwiches and stuff. So
Well,
that's
according to their commercial, I put that stuff on everything. You know, that's their tagline. And I'm
that's
like,
right. That is their tagline.
I don't know, I could do that. But when we first started trying it, I couldn't really handle the spice. You know, it was
Yeah.
fine. I'm like, oh, it's a little warm. It's all right. And then, you know, here we are 5-6 years later. And I'm like, yes, that's like ketchup, man. And you put it on a hot dog, I guess we're fine. But I need some sambal. You know,
I
sambal ulik,
actually no. What is
the
that?
chili paste.
Oh no.
It's a chili paste, and it is it is delicious. It is nose clearing, delicious heat.
Okay.
And every time I use it, I want more.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of egg sandwiches, I found it interesting.
Mhm.
Like, so you think about all the different things that you see like in movies with like breakfast items and things like that. I've never really seen anybody portray an egg sandwich in a movie until I watched Birds of Prey recently, which is like
Mhm.
the Harley
Yeah.
Quinn story, and
Yeah.
that's her go-to, like that's her
Yeah.
breakfast. And I was like, no way! And like she goes to this diner, and the dude like makes up a egg sandwich with like the Frank's hot sauce on it and everything.
Mhm.
And I'm like, holy crap, like this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
like I was getting into the movie already. And then like that, I was like, just little elements like that in a movie
Mhm.
just kind of send it over the top for me. I was like, okay, this is already a wild movie. And then you add that into it. I
Yeah.
was like, this is pretty cool. So yeah,
It was
that's a
it was
good
a fun ride.
breakfast. Yeah, I like that stuff. Like there's some good movies like that out there. So
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, it's it's always fun to cook. I have
Mhm.
always enjoyed it, and my dad actually worked in an old diner back in the day, so he taught me a lot of that stuff.
Like that shoulder to cook type
Yeah, exactly
cooking.
that.
Cool.
Like he's the one that taught me the whole like cook bacon and then afterwards like drop your eggs in there and do like some bacon washed eggs
Oh yeah.
and dip some toast in it and
Mhm.
just that deliciousness. My wife thinks it's the grossest thing ever, but and it's so good. She does. She's like, how can you eat that stuff? Like
all
she's
day
not
long.
a fan. She's not a fan of like runny things or like
Yeah.
she doesn't like yogurt. If I cook any scrambled eggs for her, like they have to be like dead over, like brown.
Dry
Like,
and
yeah. And I'm like, oh man. And so just all these different things. So yeah, I'm not of that camp at all.
Mhm. Yeah. Marnie's kind of the same way. She didn't like runny anything, like especially like mainly just runny eggs. She wants them dry and solid and all that.
Yeah.
And the first time, I mean, I think we were still dating or just barely married, but she made scrambled eggs and they were dry as a bone.
Oh man.
And she set them down and I'm like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, okay. And then again, me being who I am, I just blatantly ask her, so do you like really dry eggs? And she's like, well, my mom used to make them. They were kind of runny and I didn't like it. And so I make them this way. And that was like on our course correction to me doing all the cooking, basically.
Yeah.
So I do them a little bit different. And she's come around. The first time she wasn't sure if she tried them. She goes, yeah, they're really good. They're not running like I thought they'd be. I'm like, yeah, I don't think anybody wants like raw eggs feeling in their mouth.
No, not that.
But that's not what we're talking about.
It's talking about a moist, like,
yeah.
It's got a little bit of sponge to it, but it's not like dry. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, when I was working at a summer camp, like the first year I worked at the summer camp, they had made scrambled eggs one day. I took a bite out of them and I'm like, these taste a little off. I don't understand what's going on. I took a couple more bites and I'm like, these are not, there's something up with these eggs. I don't know what it is. So I like walk back to the kitchen and the cook's back there and I'm like, I'm just curious, what's your process for making scrambled eggs? And she's like, oh, well, and she was all excited to like tell me. I was like, okay, here we go.
Here we
She's
go.
like, oh, well, like I crack all the eggs. I put them in a bowl and I scramble them all up. And then I take a cup of orange juice and I put that in there too. and then I throw them on the grill. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's back up here for a second. You put orange juice in
Right.
your eggs. And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, it just gives them more color. I'm like,
Nope.
I mean,
She might
I've
not
heard
be
of-
wrong.
no,
mean-
but I'm just like, I don't know that eggs need more color. It's
Mm-mm.
more about the flavor. I was like, have you ever thought about putting a cup of milk in with
Mhm.
your eggs and
Yeah.
go that route? And she's like, well, wouldn't that just like dull the color down on them? I'm like, well, no, not
I don't
really.
think so. We could just stick with something non-acidic. How about that? Yeah.
But I was just like, could we save the whole camp from going, these are horrible? I got her to change. I was like, let's do milk instead. And she was like, oh, I'll give it a try. She's like, wow, these are really good. I'm like, yep, yep, they are.
Yep.
That was part of my dad's training for me, was teaching me how to do scrambled eggs. So.
Now, do you do milk, salt, and pepper, and then let's go?
Yeah, milk, salt, and pepper, and yep, whip it up and throw it on there. So yeah,
I don't use milk.
I don't use milk when I make hers, just
I
because.
use sour cream.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
I really like it with sour cream.
So that's like a, what do they call that? That's like a Scrapple type of deal almost. Like, sorry, not sour cream.
Scrabble, isn't that a board game?
No, Scrapple with a P, not a B.
Which means?
So Scrapple is when you take like eggs and some sort of meat, and you take cream cheese actually, and you cook that all together. And so it gives it this really creamy taste. So like one of my favorite Scrapple meals, and it's a great easy recipe, honestly, is salmon Scrapple. So
I think you've mentioned that before.
Have I mentioned that one before? Yeah. So like
it rings a bell. So
yeah. So basically you get like a package of like that thinly sliced smoked salmon. You get it all chopped up real nice. Scramble up about 12, you basically do like a dozen eggs because you feed your whole family, and a block of cream cheese. Get that all mixed in there real good, and then drop in your salmon and mix that all up. And serve it, and oh my gosh, it's so good. Drop it on some toast or whatever. I mean, yeah,
that sounds good, man. I'm thinking about it now. I'm really thinking about it now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go get some sliced salmon.
There you go. I mean, it's an amazing, it's delicious, and it's so funny because like my kids were like, I don't know about this, and then they tried it and they're like, oh, this is so good. Like, so yeah, one of my go-to easy meals, like I try to keep sliced salmon on hand in the house, because it's like if there's ever a night where I'm like, I just don't want to make anything that's going to take a lot of extra effort, and it's like this is like easy. It's like throw eggs in a bowl, whip them up, chop up some of that salmon, and boom, it's in. So and make sure that you cube your cream cheese too. That's that, so that it melts down real easily. But yeah, so that's that's another fun one that I enjoy. But by the way, do you know how many days it is till HomeDadCon?
No. How many days is it?
17 days.
That's awesome.
I knew it.
I can't wait.
Danny's face just gets so big. I tell him.
I'm avoiding looking at the calendar as much as I can because I have so much to do and I don't want to get so hyped up and so ready. I gotta meter myself, I gotta be patient, save it up to the last, but it's really funny because like I got my flight. I was going to drive. I thought about driving. I'm about 8 hours away now, 8.5 hours away. And I thought, well, I'll just drive down. There's not an airport close. I'd have to drive down to Green Bay, which is an hour and a half, I think. I'm going to drive an hour and a half. Might as well just drive the whole way. No big deal. Yeah. And then it turns out there is an airport just north of me, which is only 30 minutes in Wausau. And it is a fine, big airport with all the big airlines, Delta and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, and that's what I said. I think it was American ended up where I went, American Airlines.
Okay.
And I went, so that's like right there in little Wausau, Wisconsin. And the lady's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a sizable airport, and so I'm like, it's not like an international airport, is it? She said, no, but it's, we have Delta and American Airlines and a couple of other ones. And I'm like, hey, cool. You know,
Is it a walkout on the tarmac and get into the plane, or is it
I
actual
don't
terminals?
think so. I think it has terminals.
Oh wow,
From
that's
I
cool.
only know from the photo because I didn't think to ask because I was too excited about only having to drive a half hour to get to the
Oh, that's
airport.
cool.
So yeah,
So
yeah.
when do you
So
get? So when do you get in then?
about 1:30 on
Tuesday?
Tuesday. Yeah, the day
Really?
before the bourbon. I think
Okay.
it's one, if I remember correctly. I do have a layover somewhere. Not a big deal. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, let's go.
Right.
I mean, sit and read a book, or I can just, nap. Probably, I'll probably sleep all the way there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about 1:30. Then after we're leaving at 7:30, and then, but there's a layover, so I think it's 1:30 that it arrives.
Okay.
And then and then just get a car and head over to head over to the hotel and just like, yeah,
Just chill out.
get
Yeah.
ready. Yeah, find some. I don't know what to do at that point. Find some other dads.
I'll be over there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and Joe. Joe's getting in on Monday, so
Mhm.
I think Tuesday we're gonna be spending time maybe at I think we're gonna go up to the Air Force Museum because he wants to go do the photo tour on Thursday. So
Yeah.
he and I might just go up and do a nice walkthrough of the museum ahead of time. But and then go from there. We'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, so who knows? I mean, if we're back in time, I might be able to pick you up, but I don't know. If not, it's not
Yep.
that bad to get there.
Right. And I may just crash. I mean, it'll be like, because I'm sharing the room all the other days. I think all the days, at least from Wednesday. So it may be my only day to just kind of like, I don't know, lay naked on all the beds and furniture and just not tell the guys.
Complete freedom. All good. I get it.
I like that chair. The chair's pretty comfortable. I thought it was comfortable too.
Yep, sure did. Naked.
Laid my boys on it, but just saying, you go ahead.
Oh shoot.
No, in case my roommates hear this, I would never do that to you, gentlemen. Never.
I actually today we won't say it today. We'll say it was last week. I posted about people I'm trying to make a playlist for guys to be able to listen to.
Saw that post.
So it's going to be something that I'll post so that anybody that wants to listen to some music or whatever, it's very eclectic because I mean, all the guys in the attendees group are putting stuff in on it. But I thought it would be fun to build something. I mean, it took 4 hours for guys to put in over 5 hours worth of music.
Nice.
And I check it every so often and I just keep dropping more songs into it. But I mean, it's a very interesting list of stuff. So
sure.
But it'll be fun for the road trip, honestly, because you can just hit shuffle and play and boom, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right. And for the bourbon tour.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about anybody DJing. You get what you get. So
yeah. Well, and that's it. And to any guys riding in my van, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. Okay.
That's
right. What we're playing. Daddy controls the radio.
Well, and that was the other thing. We were talking about it. We were talking in the dad lounge about the vehicle setup because now we're down to 17 guys. Mm-hmm. And it was I reserved 2 15-passenger vans. We got 17 guys. I'm like, I could just take the Highlander, my car, and put everybody else in the van. And I'm like, but then you got everybody crammed into there, and then you got my vehicle's full. And I was like, or we could just pay the extra because I was like, the difference of one van versus 2 was $10 per guy. All right. So instead of paying 15, it was 6, it was 26 or something like that. But I was like, if you pay the 26, then we get 2 vans and you put 8 guys in one and 9 in the other, and you got all that room to spread out, put bourbon in there, whatever.
Well, it's the thing too. And if you decide we go to go to one place and we want to switch a guy out or whatever,
right?
Hey, Bob wants to ride in the other van for this thing because they were talking about a certain bourbon and they want to keep talking about their kids or whatever. Yeah. Okay. We got room, let's swap over. It's fine. I think it's a better way of doing it. More room is always better too, especially on a bourbon tour.
Yeah.
Got to have a place to put your bottles, and then you got a place to fall over if you need to.
Right. So I'm going to bring some Sharpies with me so that guys can, write their names on the box. So we got boxes.
Oh, sorry. That is not where I went with that. I'm talking about guys getting drunk and you're talking about Sharpies. I'm thinking, so.
Mark their hand. You're done. Put an 1X, strike 1.
We're going to trace a penis on them, but okay.
Oh,
You're
shoot.
you're way better.
I'm
Your
not
idea's
that
way better.
malicious. I'm
Way
not
better.
that malicious. Danny, you're showing your other side here.
Would you draw it?
No.
Okay.
No.
'Cause I said
wouldn't.
trace, so there's a big difference. No, I would not. I've only done that once in my life, and I the next day I had to apologize to the guy, but he thought it was hilarious. So,
Oh my
but I would
gosh.
not. I'm not. You don't Sharpie our own. That's a rule I have from another
Yeah.
group that I'm in, and that's it. We don't Sharpie our own. Yeah.
For sure. Oh man. But yeah, so I'm getting excited about that. And
Mhm.
actually have been
17 days.
17 days, man. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I actually started reading I picked up a book at the library on downtown history of Cincinnati, and it's been
Nice.
interesting, like just because I wanted to be able to like tell guys about different areas of town and some other different little stories and stuff.
Yeah.
I love doing that when I go walk around town. So
It's very much a dad thing too. I think.
I guess, yeah, you could say
You
that.
And it's different. People go for it, but like, have you seen that that commercial where the guy's trying to keep people from turning into their parents, and
Yes.
when they buy a house, and he says, "Who else reads books about submarines, Bob?" The guy goes, "My dad." He goes, "Yeah, your dad." Yeah, and that's kind of the thing too. I'm like, ooh, books about submarines sound kind of, oh yeah, my dad. I'm a dad, definitely. So, but figuring out the history though, I think it's a great idea. I've been trying to at least familiarize myself with the map more, so that I kind of have an idea of that area, but I'm learning this area too. So it's kind of second to actually trying to, how do I get to my kid's school kind of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, just having an idea where you're going, and then being able to go, hey guys, you see that bridge? Yeah, that bridge has been rebuilt 17 times or whatever. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't realize that John Wilkes Booth's dad actually was an actor here in Cincinnati when he killed Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
And apparently after they told his dad that he had done that, one, he passed out behind stage before going out on stage for a performance. And then like 3 days later, he was like, bye now, I'm going to get out of town. Like I can only imagine what you're going to do to my son. And when you find out that I'm related to him, like, and it was like, that'd probably a good reason to go into protective services or some kind of thing like that.
No longer be a public figure, unfortunately.
I'm going to go to Kentucky where they might actually be okay that I'm his dad kind of deal.
Head to the South. They'll take you.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, into like that, we've talked about the fact of the Underground Railroad Museum or the Freedom Center actually being across there. And there's a lot of stories in there talking about like people crossing over into Cincinnati and how like that was sort of like the beginnings to like going north for freedom and stuff. And just some of the different like things like that. I guess there was like a slave owner who let his slave come to this Cincinnati with some other people for something. And she didn't want to come back, and then like they went to court over it, and the guy said, basically the owner said, you can have your choice, you can either stay or go. He really thought like she would come back to him. I don't know what kind of loyalty he felt she had, but she said no way and said she was staying, and like he was fine with it for like a day, and then like turned around and like got really angry and like sent like slave I don't know what you call them, but catchers or whatever, like after her. And it's pretty wild. But she ended up like still like the Supreme or like the courts or whatever, like upheld the fact that he said like, you choose. And they said like, you're not going to go back on that. And so, just
it's an interesting story.
Interesting stories like that. And it's interesting to hear like just the fact that like Cincinnati, especially downtown Cincinnati, was such an area for like transition, and like you could stay in like the downtown area and be safe, but as soon as you went north of downtown, like it was free game if like somebody was actually like chasing after you or whatever. It was really wild. Like that was some of the stories they were talking about. And I'm trying to think when there was one other one that was really pretty wild, like but basically I can't remember what it was exactly right now, but yeah, I mean, just stuff like that. It's pretty wild. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. Like, so I like period piece shows, like Outlander's awesome. Really enjoyed that. I'm probably going to actually rewatch it while I'm recovering from surgery with my wife. And then I really enjoyed the Hell on Wheels series, which which is like right after the Civil War, and they're building the Continental Railroad. And now I'm watching Deadwood on HBO Max and really liking that because it's like right after Hell on Wheels ends. And reading this book, I find out that Cincinnati was like the furthest west, like the wilderness west that people had gone in like 66 or something like that. So people hadn't really gone that far into the west after like the Civil War. Like they'd made it, like Cincinnati was like kind of the furthest, and then they pushed west after that. And I'm like, man, like where's that series at? Like I want to see that. Like come on, like some series maker needs to like put together some sort of like, just that, like I don't know, it doesn't have to be named Cincinnati or anything, but just sort of like the furthest west or something along those lines. But because it's amazing to look at some of the pictures and see just how much the city was built up in like 1866. And it's like, man, like they were established, like lots of buildings, and it was not a frontier area at all. Like it was a true city. And it's just, I find it interesting. Like sometimes people don't really dig into like the history of like the towns and cities that they live in. And when you do, like you find out like there are famous people that like went through there, or there was like these amazing things that happened that nobody talks about. So that's, I get such enjoyment and pleasure out of finding those things.
Yeah. It's a little bit different coming from Georgia. We do have a lot of stuff about the Civil War and the histories of that. And that's, for good or for ill. It was interesting when I was at the open house for my high school student, and his U.S. history teacher was talking about that they're basically this AP course that he's taking is just going to be a broad brush of history. We're just going to U.S. history in general. We're not going to stop on a lot of things. We're not going to pay a lot of attention. We're not just going to go move from point to point to point. You got to be ready for that because you need to get all those basics before you can get in. And he goes, but when you go to college, like I studied and yada, yada, we did this. So like we went over the Civil War and we spent 6 weeks studying one county in Georgia.
Yeah.
And we really went intense on everything that had happened there and everything that was going on in that area, and the culture and the politics and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, cool. We do that anyway in Georgia. That's just what we do. It's like what our pride and joy almost. It's like we were horrible human beings. Look, but he said, well, it was, we're talking about this area in this county. And I'm like, oh yeah. I used to work out there and, and I lived over in this area, and we talked for about 5-10 minutes. He's like, it's so weird. You're like a piece of history, And I went, all right, that's mean. Okay. I'm not that old. And I wasn't in the Civil War, sir. But it was really cool having lived in an area that's famous, but you don't recognize that it's famous for anything. I mean, Civil War happened here and everybody talks about the Civil War, but to actually see people like, well, did you ever go to the, see the fields for the Battle of Kennesaw or whatever else? And I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, we go over there and look for bullets or stuff, or just metal detecting. I didn't do that, but we'd hike and they'd be people checking for bullets or, and I'm like, yeah, I've got like 3 or 4 old Civil War bullets in my somewhere. He's like, what? Somewhere? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, can you show them to me? And I'm like, no, man. I mean, maybe, but everything's in a box and I can't find anything. I can't find my shoes. So I'm not going to go look for a Civil War bullet. But like you said, it's really cool. The history of a place, that can be there. And you just don't even recognize that this is such a monumental thing. Yeah. And the incredible stuff that happened like 2 blocks that way, for like Cincinnati, if you're in the city itself, 2 blocks that way was where this amazing, incredible thing happened.
Yep.
And I love that. And I think that's very dad, that's,
sure.
You get to a point where you want to start looking at the lineage and the history of things because you're starting to create your own, for lack of a better word, your own legacy, to what you're passing on to your kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, like you said, like, where you grow up, you tend to, that's sort of kind of like what you gravitate towards, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
And for me, like my biggest thing, like, is all things like gangster. So like Al Capone, all that kind of thing. And maybe I've talked about that a little bit on the show, but, I've got quite a connection with like, I've got a pretty interesting connection with like the Al Capone gang, both from my.
Should we be talking about this?
Yeah, no, it's good, man. It's all good. They're all
Nobody's going to
gone.
come knocking on my door, are they?
No,
Okay, just
no,
checking.
nothing like that. No, like for my 8th grade history report, I did a report on Al Capone, and one of the teachers was like, you should really talk to this teacher. And I was like, oh, well, that was my 5th grade teacher. And they were like, yeah, you should go talk to her. And I'm like, okay. She's a family friend. So I call them up and I'm like, hey, like I'm doing this report on Al Capone. They told me that I should talk to you. I like, what's your connection? She was just like, just have your mom like bring you over here to the house and like I'll show you. And I'm like, okay. Like she won't even tell me over the phone. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, like this is gonna be good. Whatever this is, like obviously she doesn't want this to get out, but she wants to show me. So I'm like, all right, cool. So my mom takes me over and like we get in there and she's like, hey, all right, you guys come on upstairs. Like I'll show you, this office here. I'm like, all right. She's like, my dad was a reporter for the Chicago Times. And I'm like, okay. And she's
All
like,
right.
and he rode the train to Alcatraz from Chicago with Al Capone.
No
And
way.
yeah.
Wow.
And she had in her possession all of the original transcripts from what he wrote on the story that made it into the paper about like this conversation that they had together.
Oh, that's awesome.
Writing out to San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So like I got to sit in there and just like read through all of that. And it was amazing. I was just like, I was so enthralled. And I had already had been to Chicago a few times with our science class, went every year to like the different museums and stuff as like a day-long field trip. But I was always so just like one point we ended up down in Chinatown, like right beside like one of Capone's houses. And I was just like, oh man, this is so cool. And then as years went on, I ended up actually like making it back to Chicago. This was like after Corey and I were married. We went and visited a friend, and she's like, hey, we're going to go to Chicago Oven Grinders and Pizza. And I'm like, oh, great. That's awesome. And she's like, do you know the history behind this? And I'm like, no, let me look it up. Here to come find out. It's this place that sits across the street from where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre took place.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The apartment above the restaurant is one of Capone's apartments. And the restaurant is amazing. Like you walk in and it's cash only. There's actually like a Guido at the door who like greets you. And I mean, it feels very much like when you walk in that like there's a mob boss in the back corner, like in the dark, kind of, smoking a cigar type of deal. Like
doing his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really neat. So I was like, oh man, this is so cool to be in that like area. And then I ended up talking to my grandfather before he passed away. And I was like, hey, like, I know you have this story of this like nickel plated pistol that like you got your hands on that's from like family. Like, what's the story behind that? And he ended up telling me that like his grandfather was a bellhop in my hometown at this really nice hotel that's now like a senior center. And one week, this guy came into town and he recognized him right off the bat. And he knew he was a gangster. He actually knew he was one of Capone's guys. And usually those guys would come down from Chicago to Huntington to get off the heat, to just get away for a bit. And Derringer was also around in that area as well. But this guy was from the Capone gang. And so he's down there hanging out. And one of the last nights that he's there, my grandfather's grandfather was like, I don't want to be caught in the elevator with this guy. And so sure enough, like he's working, he's a bellhop, he's working the elevator. This dude gets in and he's all like trying not to look at him and everything. And he's just being very obvious. And the guy was just like, I know that you know who I am. He just calls him out.
I don't. No, sir, I don't.
Yeah. And this is all like word of mouth story that's just carried on. But he's like, I know that you know who I am. He's like, you keep your mouth shut and I'll leave you something in the room because I'm getting out of here or whatever. And he took off and he left him I forget, like I think he left him a little bit of cash, but he left him this like really nice nickel plated pistol that was like a US military. It's a 25 millimeter, or I think it's 25 millimeter pistol. But my grandfather passed away on my and was buried on my 40th birthday. Mm-hmm. And so when we were home, I told my grandmother, I was like, hey, is that nickel plated pistol still in the desk? And she was like, I don't know. She's like, I wouldn't know if it was there or not. And my uncles, like, they left the house and it was just me and her hanging out for a bit, just talking. And she's like, just go in the study and see if it's there. And I'm like, all right. So I was like, I'm going to go rifle through my grandfather's study. All right, this is pretty wild. And sure enough, like, I knew that it was in like a sock the last time he showed it to me, like literally in a white athletic sock. Yeah. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Total grandpa thing. Right.
Exactly.
And I go looking around and the sock's not there. And I'm like, man, this is like, where the heck is it? And looking around and I find this like really goofy plastic gas station, like the old school gas station plastic bag type of deal. And I'm looking at it and I touch it and I'm like, well, that feels like a gun. And sure enough, I pull it out and I'm like, holy crap. She's like, did you find it? I'm like, yep, I found it. And she's like, do you want it? And I was like, yes, I do. Like, I really do.
Yes.
And so she's like, he would want you to have it. So happy birthday. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have this sweet nickel plated pistol that's it's an amazing thing to have. It actually brings up a lot of emotion in me talking about it. Cause
I'm sure. Yeah.
Between that, and I've got other things of my grandfather's as well.
His hat. Yeah.
I got his hat. Yeah. So I actually found an advertisement at a place in Northern Kentucky of that gun on a wall at a spirits distillery place.
Yeah.
It was like a magazine gun too, which was really funny. So,
cool.
But yeah, so it's just those kind of things. Like, it's just that cool history of everything. And yes, it is a very dad thing, but at the same time, because you think about it, like, you tell your kids about it and they're just like, okay, that's great. Thanks, Dad.
Right.
But it's like, there's so much more to it than that. And I feel like that's one thing that I really want to stress to my kids is the importance of getting to know their grandparents and their aunts and uncles, because once they're gone, like, you're like, oh, I wish I knew. And it's like, it's too late.
Yeah, there's nobody that knows now.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Right. And that's one of the things that, talk about, like, the legacy of things. It's like, well, if you don't get to know the people that have, like, put forth the effort to, like, build a legacy, then the finding out afterwards is not the same as finding out from the person who's actually, like, building it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But, oh man, sorry. I got on a tangent there.
No, that's what we're here for, man. That's what we're here for. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm excited to have everybody here in Cincinnati, because there is such a ton of history and things to do. And yeah, it's going to be fun, man. I'm like 17 days is going to come by real quick. So,
yeah, I mean, look how long it seems like it's been 10 years since the last one, really, from virtual, even from DadCon at home, but it's just been because the year has just been dragging on. But I know these next couple of weeks are just going to burn. They're going to be gone. Yeah. I'm going to turn around like, oh, I'm getting on the plane. Look at that. All right, let's go.
Yep.
So
it's going to be wild. I've got things showing up here at the house on a regular basis. So
yeah.
Got some swag that showed up. So
nice.
Some really comfy swag.
Even nicer.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So I can't complain there.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna cap this off.
Yeah, man.
I think we've got her well situated. I don't know. For next week, we'll have to figure out what we want to do as far as a conversation, since we're getting down to the wire on everything.
Nitty-gritty.
I know. So who knows? Maybe we'll bring a guest on. Maybe something exciting will happen. You never know. But
well, as long as it's fun for you and me, really, I mean, that's all that matters.
Everybody else is along for the ride.
And for anybody listening, that was sarcasm. We love you guys and really, really appreciate you listening. Sincerely.
Hey, man, if somebody wants to talk about something else, you better suggest it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Get on the mic. Come on. I got a mic right here for you.
That works. That works too. Yeah.
All
right. Well, hey, until next week, have a good one.
Good night.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.